Millionaire hires a poor girl as his fake fiancée, but her one rule leaves him speechless. Before we start, leave a comment telling us which city or country you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Let's go back to our main character. The ballroom was drenched in gold. Chandeliers glowed like frozen fireworks. Champagne glasses clinked softly beneath the sound of violins. It was the Blackstone Foundation's annual gala, where luxury met legacy. But something was off. Billionaire Ethan Callahan stood near the edge of the marble stage, staring at his phone with a clenched jaw. His PR agent leaned in, whispering nervously, "She bailed, sir. Your fiancée, she's not coming." Ethan didn't blink. Instead, he slowly exhaled, then turned his icy gaze to the crowd. Investors, journalists, family enemies, everyone who'd love to watch him stumble. "She picked a hell of a night to grow a conscience," he muttered. "No worries," he added, snapping his fingers. "Get me a replacement. Pretty, polite, and not stupid." The assistant blinked. "Sir, the gala starts in less than 2 hours." "Then you've got one." He turned, suit sharp, heart frozen. Ethan Callahan never begged. He bought. 27 blocks away. Eliza Hart was scrubbing tables at Joe's Diner, fingers red from the detergent. She had one earbud in, listening to a podcast about resilience. Outside, the neon sign flickered. Open 24 hours. Her apron was stained with coffee. A kid had spilled syrup down her sleeve. But Eliza smiled anyway. Because tonight, she'd almost earned enough for her little brother's insulin. Almost. "Table 4 needs refills," her manager barked. Eliza nodded and turned just in time to see a man in a designer coat step inside, looking painfully out of place. He scanned the room, spotted her, and walked over like he owned the ground beneath him. "Elisa Hart?" She blinked. "Yes? I'm here on behalf of Ethan Callahan." Silence. The syrup bottle stopped mid-pour. "I'm sorry, what?" He handed her a business card like it was a golden ticket. "You've been selected for a one-night engagement. Fake fiancé, black tie gala, $25,000 by midnight." Eliza laughed. Actually laughed. Was this a prank? Then she looked at the man's Rolex, the manicured hands, the scent of something expensive and bitter. "You're serious?" "Entirely." She narrowed her eyes. "Why me?" "Your background check said you're clean. No social media scandals. Educated, but invisible. Low risk." Invisible. The word echoed like an insult. "My answer is no," she said, turning back toward the kitchen. But then the man added quietly, "Your brother Eli, isn't it? The one with juvenile diabetes?" Eliza froze. "We know his medication's been delayed twice this month. Insurance red tape. We're prepared to cover 6 months up front. If you say yes." Her heart thudded. Her fingers clenched around the edge of the table. 25,000? And 6 months meds? The man nodded. 1 hour later, Eliza was in the back of a black Escalade, driving toward a world she'd only seen in magazines. The stylist next to her was already dabbing foundation on her cheek. "Don't worry, honey. I've turned waitresses into duchesses in 30 minutes flat." The dress was emerald green, backless, with a slit high enough to make Eliza blush. She kept tugging at the hem. "Do I really have to wear heels this tall?" "Non-negotiable." "Oh." When they arrived, the valet opened her door, and Eliza stepped out shaky, unfamiliar, but standing tall. Inside the ballroom, heads turned. Whispers circled. "Who's that with Ethan?" "She's not the usual type. She looks nervous." Ethan extended his arm without a word. Eliza took it, and for a moment, their eyes met. "Steelment fire." "Stick to the script," he whispered. "I plan to." They posed for photos, sipped champagne, exchanged fake laughs. But when they were alone in the side corridor, he finally asked, "Do you understand the rules?" "I understand enough," she said, "but I have one of my own." Ethan tilted his head. "I don't care about your money, your enemies, your image. But if you ever speak to me like I'm beneath you, this deal ends." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. A pause. A glitch in his polished performance. "You're not what I expected." "Neither are you," she replied. A beat passed, and then the door swung open. A photographer called out, "Mr. Callahan, we need you and your fiancée for the toast." He held out his hand. Eliza hesitated, then took it. But inside, A storm was forming, because neither of them knew that by the end of tonight, nothing would be fake anymore. The toast was supposed to be simple. Smile, raise the glass, nod. But standing under the crystal chandeliers, surrounded by flashing cameras and whispering elites, Eliza felt her throat tighten. She wasn't supposed to matter here. Not in a dress borrowed from a stylist. Not with heels 1 inch away from betrayal. Not next to a man who lived in headlines. Ethan held the microphone like he'd done this 1,000 times. Because he had. "Tonight," he began, voice smooth as polished glass, "I'd like to raise a glass to something rare surprise." Polite laughter. He didn't smile. Surprise, that in a world of deals, numbers, and strategy, something unexpected still has the power to make us pause. He turned slightly, eyes locking onto Eliza's. "Everyone, meet Eliza Hart. She's the reason I'm smiling tonight." Gasps. Applause. Someone muttered, "She's beautiful." And another hissed, "Who is she?" Eliza smiled politely, tilted her chin, pretended she wasn't shaking. The champagne burned down her throat. Backstage, once the applause faded, she pulled him aside. "You didn't have to say all that." "I know," he replied, fixing his cufflink. "But it looked good." She stared at him. "Do you always treat people like props?" Ethan's jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. Instead, he stepped away, pulling out his phone. "Pictures of us are already on 3 blogs," he said. "The investors are texting. We're trending." She didn't care. "I'm not a mannequin." "No," he said without looking up. "You're a contract, with very specific terms." The words stung, but she'd already been burned before. This was just heat, not fire. Meanwhile, across the ballroom, Meredith Kingsley, the queen of boardroom gossip and Ethan's ex, was watching. She sipped her wine slowly, never taking her eyes off Eliza. "New toy?" she asked one of the executives nearby. He shrugged. "Don't know." She came out of nowhere. Meredith said, lips curving. "Then I suppose it's my job to find out where nowhere is." An hour later, the gala was fading into soft jazz and late-night desserts. Ethan had disappeared into a conversation about offshore accounts. Eliza wandered toward the terrace, just to breathe. Out there, it was quiet. The air smelled like roses and secrets. She leaned against the railing, toes screaming from the heels, and pulled out her phone. A single text from her neighbor. "Eli's asleep. No fever. You're doing great." Eliza smiled, just a little. But the moment cracked when she heard a voice behind her. "I Googled you." She turned. Meredith. Tall. Icy. Perfect. "I'm sorry," Eliza said. I said, "I Googled you." And guess what? Nothing. No LinkedIn. No articles. Not even a fake Instagram. Eliza blinked. "Maybe I'm just private." "Or maybe," Meredith said, stepping closer, "you're hiding something." Eliza didn't flinch. "Maybe I just don't need validation from strangers." Meredith smiled sweetly. "You know, this isn't Pretty Woman. Ethan doesn't do second acts. He replaces people like furniture. I'm not trying to be part of his act." "Oh, honey," Meredith whispered. "You already are." She walked away with a click of heels. And Eliza suddenly felt cold even in a $5,000 dress. Inside, Ethan found her again. "We need to make one more appearance," he said. But she didn't move. "You said this was just for one night." "And it is." "Then stop pretending I'm more than a shadow you hired." Ethan looked at her. Really looked. "You want honesty? Try me." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I hired you because I needed control. Because if I showed up alone tonight, the board would question everything. And I don't like being questioned." "Ugh, I'm not afraid of questions," she said quietly. "Well, I am," he admitted. "Of the kind you make me ask myself." Eliza didn't speak. Not because she didn't have words, but because for the first time, he'd said something real. They left the gala early. In the car, silence wrapped around them. Ethan stared out the window. Eliza kicked off her shoes and exhaled. "Thank you," she said finally. "For what?" "For keeping your promise." He looked at her, confused. "The meds, the money. You kept your word." "I always do," he said, "even when I wish I didn't." Another pause. Then, "You surprised me tonight." "How?" "You didn't disappear." "I wanted to," she admitted. "But then I thought, if I walk away, you win." "Oh," he turned slowly. "I don't want to win." She looked back at him, then stopped playing games. The driver didn't dare interrupt. Neither did the night. At her doorstep, Eliza got out of the car and turned back once. "Don't call me tomorrow," she said. "I wasn't planning to. But if you do," she added, "have something real to say." And with that, she was gone, leaving Ethan Callahan, CEO, investor, empire builder, standing in the back seat of his own world, wondering how a girl with coffee-stained hands had managed to flip his perfectly built script with nothing but honesty. The next morning, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse kitchen. He didn't cook his fridge, was more decoration than appliance. But the espresso machine had become his therapist, one bitter cup at a time. He replayed her words in his head, "Have something real to say." That shouldn't bother him. And yet, it did. Because for the first time in years, Ethan Callahan didn't feel like the one in control. He felt seen. And that was infinitely worse. Down in Midtown, Eliza was back at the diner by 9 a.m., apron tied, bun messy. The $25,000 check was folded neatly inside a locked drawer at home. She hadn't touched it. Not yet. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it ring. Voicemail clicked. Then again. And again. Finally, she sighed and answered. "What?" "Didn't expect a warm greeting," Ethan said. "You told me not to expect anything." "Fair point." Pause. "I wanted to ask," he continued. "Are you free tonight?" She blinked. "Seriously?" "Dinner. No gala. No cameras. Just a meal." "You mean like normal people?" "I don't know if I remember how." She hesitated. Then, "Fine. But only if I pick the place." "Deal." That night, Ethan stood outside Luna's Tacos, holding his breath. The sign flickered. The tables were plastic. The menu was written in dry erase marker. And the millionaire CEO of Callahan Holdings looked very much like a fish out of mineral water. Eliza walked out of the kitchen wearing an apron and a smile. "This is my cousin's place," she said. "We eat for free if we help serve." "Serve? Come on, Mr. Callahan. You said you wanted real." She handed him an apron. And for the first time in 2 decades, he didn't say no. They worked side by side, wiping tables, carrying trays, laughing. Ethan fumbled with salsa lids. Eliza nearly dropped 3 water pitchers. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't quiet. But it was honest. And when the dinner rush ended, they sat outside under a broken neon light, sharing churros and Mexican Coke. "You're different here," he said. "This is who I am. You're not pretending?" She looked at him. "Are you?" He didn't answer. Meanwhile, in the dark corner of a private office, Meredith was not done. She held a photo of Eliza taken at the gala and zoomed in on her necklace, then pulled up an old file from 10 years ago. "Gotcha," she whispered. Back on the curb, Ethan finally asked what had been itching at his thoughts. "Why the rule, Eliza?" She blinked. "Which one?" "No disrespect, no condescension." She leaned back, eyes soft. "Because people like you think silence equals weakness. It doesn't. Silence is survival. It's how people like me make it through rooms filled with people like you." He didn't reply. He just looked, and maybe for the first time, saw her clearly. Later that night, he dropped her off again. This time, he got out. This time, he walked her to the door. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being the only thing this week that didn't feel fake." She smiled. "That's a dangerous compliment, Mr. Callahan. Then maybe I'm tired of playing it safe." He reached out, just barely. But Eliza stepped back. "You don't know me yet," she said gently. "But I want to." "That's not enough." She went inside. And for the second night in a row, Ethan was left standing alone in a city that had never made him feel small. Until now. But the next morning, Eliza woke up to her brother coughing. Hard. Harder than before. She rushed to his room, found the inhaler. But the wheezing wouldn't stop. They ended up in the ER. Doctors, charts, monitors, beeps, and one word that stopped her heart: complication. She gripped his hand. "I'm right here. I promise. I won't let anything happen." But her face was pale. Because even with the check, it might not be enough. That evening, Ethan tried calling. Voicemail. He called again. Nothing. He showed up at the diner. Closed. He called her neighbor. No answer. So he called someone else. Find out where Eliza Hart is. Now. An hour later, he was standing in the hospital hallway. She saw him and froze. How did you? I have resources, he said. Then use them for someone else. This is personal. I'm not here for a press release. They stood in silence. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it mattered. But it does. Her voice cracked. Why? Because I care. It was quiet. Too quiet. Until the doctor walked out and said 3 words that knocked the air out of her lungs. He needs surgery. He needs surgery. The hallway went silent. Eliza's knees buckled slightly, but she caught herself on the armrest of a plastic chair. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. Only her eyes said what she couldn't. Not again. Not now. Ethan stepped forward, steady, voice low. How soon? The doctor adjusted his glasses. Within the next 72 hours. It's not optional. Eliza blinked. Can it be done here? We'd recommend transferring him to St. Michael's Children's Hospital. They specialize in pediatric complications like this. And the cost? The doctor paused. Eliza already knew. Too much. Outside the ER doors, Eliza gripped the railing of the parking garage, her back to the city skyline. Ethan stood nearby, arms folded, silent for once. She spoke first. You've done enough. The check helped. I won't ask for more. He didn't respond immediately. Then, what if I offer without you asking? She turned to him, sharp, guarded. You don't owe me anything. I know. Then why are you here? His voice was quiet. Not defensive, not smug. Because last night I said I cared, and I meant it. Eliza looked away. That's not your problem. Maybe I want it to be. The next day, Eliza signed the hospital transfer papers. St. Michael's admitted Eli within hours. The surgery was scheduled. The doctors were confident, but Eliza wasn't. Not in the world. Not in fate. And definitely not in Ethan Callahan. But when she walked into the waiting room, he was already there. Dressed down, no bodyguards, coffee in hand. You didn't have to come. I could not. Silence. Then she sat beside him. No words. Just 2 people, waiting on a miracle. In a white hallway that smelled like antiseptic and hope. 3 hours passed. Then 4. Finally, the surgeon walked out. Elijah's stable, she said. We're optimistic. Eliza broke down, not with sobs but with silence. The kind that shakes your ribs from the inside out. Ethan placed a hand on her back. She didn't move away. That night, back at her small apartment, she stared at the hospital bracelet still on her wrist. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan had offered to stay, but she said no. Still, he texted, call me if you need anything. She didn't reply. But she didn't delete it either. Across the city, Ethan sat alone in his office. The city lights blurred behind the glass. He watched his phone like it owed him answers. And then, it rang. Unknown number. He picked up. Mr. Callahan, this is Meredith Kingsley. He froze. What do you want? Just a friendly heads up. You're not the only one digging into Eliza Hart's life. He stood, spine tightening. Explain. Meredith's tone was sugar-laced poison. You're so focused on saving her, you forgot to ask one question: who she really is. Click. Call ended. The next morning, Ethan's investigator called. Sir, we found something. Later that day, Eliza received a call from the hospital. Mr. Callahan has cleared all remaining bills, the nurse said. Also, he left a note for you. She picked it up on her way out. Small, folded. Inside, 1 line. I didn't do it for gratitude, I did it because I care. She stared at the words for a long time, until her phone buzzed. It was Ethan. Meet me. 1 hour. No excuses. They met at the botanical garden. Her favorite place. He remembered. You're not the man I met at that gala, she said, arms crossed. He smiled faintly. You're not the waitress who spilled coffee on herself either. She tilted her head. What do you want from me, Ethan? He took a breath. I want honesty. You had it. I want more than this. She looked away. Then softly. You can't buy me, Ethan. I'm not trying to. I don't need saving. I know. Silence. Then she asked, gently but firmly. Why me? His eyes didn't waver. Because when I'm with you, I remember I'm human. He reached into his coat, pulled out a small box. Not a ring. A key. To his apartment. To something real. You don't have to say yes, he said. Just don't disappear. Eliza took the key, stared at it, then at him, and for the first time, she didn't feel like someone temporary. She felt seen. But across the city, Meredith wasn't done. She opened a file. Printed, stamped, sealed. Eliza Hart, original name. Eliza Harper. Let's see how long your little fairy tale lasts, she whispered. Rain hit the city like confession. Not heavy, just steady. Enough to blur the lights and soften the edges. Eliza sat in the window seat of her apartment, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug of tea. The key Ethan gave her lay on the counter, untouched. Her brother was finally asleep. The hospital bracelet still sat next to the microwave. But her thoughts weren't on Eli. They were on what Ethan said. Because when I'm with you, I remember I'm human. She closed her eyes. And for the first time since her mother died, she let herself want something without apologizing for it. Meanwhile, Ethan was standing on the rooftop of Callahan Tower, suit jacket over one shoulder, phone to his ear. Are you sure? The voice on the other end was cautious. Yes, sir. Her real name is Eliza Harper. She changed it 4 years ago. No criminal record. But the name change wasn't random. Ethan's jaw tightened. Why? She was the daughter of Jonathan Harper, former CFO of Lexicon Global. He was caught in the biggest fraud case of the decade. Died before trial. Silence. Ethan stared at the skyline. Send me everything. The next day, Eliza was folding laundry when she heard the knock. Not loud, not aggressive, just deliberate. She opened the door. Ethan, wearing the same expression he had the night she first walked into that gala. Cold. Sharp. Controlled. Eliza, he said. Eliza Harper, she corrected. The pause was short but enough. You found out. I did. She stepped aside. He didn't move. You could have told me, he said. You could have asked, she replied. Their eyes locked. No pretense. No script. Just the ugly, raw space between two people holding pieces of the truth. Inside, she poured him coffee. He didn't drink it, just stared at the mug. My father made a mistake, she said. A horrible one. But I didn't. I didn't say you did. But you thought it. That I should be worried? Number. That I was hiding it to trick you. Ethan said nothing. Eliza stood. Walked to the window. I changed my name to protect my brother. We lost everything. We slept in shelters. I worked 3 jobs. And every time someone recognized that name, I lost another chance at normal. He finally looked up. I don't care about the name. Then why does this feel like an interrogation? Silence. Then Ethan stood. I care because I'm falling for you. The room froze. Even the rain outside seemed to stop. Eliza turned slowly. That's a dangerous thing to say. I know, because you don't get to fall in love with me and judge me at the same time. I'm not judging. You're doubting. He didn't deny it. She smiled. Not cruel, not bitter, just tired. I lived through shame, Ethan. I carried it, fed it, slept next to it. So if you want a fairy tale, pick someone with no ghosts. He reached into his coat, pulled out a thin envelope. Meredith is digging. I figured. She plans to leak it. Eliza took the envelope, stared at her father's face in a clipped newspaper photo, then folded it, burned it in the kitchen sink. The flame curled upward, and the guilt that came with it curled with it. I'm done hiding. That night, the gala hall buzzed with electricity. The press had been invited for a company charity launch. Ethan was supposed to appear solo, but when the lights dimmed, Eliza walked in. Not in disguise, not in apology, but in power, the same emerald green dress. But this time, hair up, posture straight, no hesitation. She walked to the center of the room, took the mic. I'm Eliza Harper. Gasps, flashes, phones lifted. My name was once tied to scandal, but it's mine, and I'm not here to defend it. I'm here because the past doesn't own me, and it never will again. Silence, then one clap, then another, until the whole room stood. Ethan stood last, with pride, with clarity, with something that finally felt real. Backstage, she found him waiting. You didn't stop me, she said. I wouldn't dare. You still want to be seen with me? Especially now. She smiled. He stepped closer. You broke every rule I had. She raised an eyebrow. That a compliment? Best one I've ever given. But outside, someone wasn't clapping. Meredith sat in her car, eyes locked on the live feed. Her nails tapped the steering wheel. Then she picked up her phone. It's time. Move to phase 2. The next morning, Eliza woke up to 1,000 unread messages. Some were kind, most were not. Screenshots of her speech had gone viral overnight. So had the headlines. Callahan's mystery fiancée, daughter of a fraudster. Eliza Harper, rewriting her past or rebranding it. The internet wasn't just watching. It was dissecting her. Her face, her dress, her voice. Even the way she breathed on stage. Meanwhile, in a polished conference room, 50 floors above, the Callahan Holdings board was panicking. "This is reckless," one man barked. "She hijacked our event. Ethan, you need to distance yourself before it affects the quarterly numbers." Ethan sat at the head of the table, calm, unmoving, until he stood. "My fiancée spoke with more integrity in 5 minutes than this board has in 5 years." The room went silent. One woman muttered, "You're putting your personal feelings above the company." He leaned forward. "I'm putting the company in the hands of someone who actually remembers why we started it." Outside the building, cameras gathered. Reporters shouted her name as Eliza stepped out of a cab. Flashes exploded. "Miss Harper, are you planning a public apology? Did Ethan know your identity from the beginning? Do you think the public will ever trust you?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because Ethan was already waiting at the doors, hand outstretched, face calm. She walked past the chaos and took his hand. Inside the elevator, she finally exhaled. "You didn't have to meet me." "Yes, I did. You realize your investors probably want my head." He looked at her. "Let them want it. They're not getting it." But upstairs, behind closed doors, Meredith had already launched her next move. A leaked recording. Old, scratchy, but damning. A younger Eliza, begging a landlord to delay rent. "Please, my brother's sick. I swear I'll get the money, just don't throw us out again." Meredith uploaded the file with a caption. "How far would you go to escape your father's shadow?" The video spread like wildfire. Some viewers wept. Others accused her of emotional manipulation. One comment hit 40,000 likes in 2 hours. First she plays the victim. Now she plays the billionaire. Girls got range. That night, Ethan turned off every device. He and Eliza sat on the floor of her tiny kitchen. The air smelled like leftover garlic bread. She was still in jeans. He'd lost his tie hours ago. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," she whispered. He reached for her hand. "Then don't take it alone." Tears slipped. Quiet. "I thought coming clean would end it." "It started it," he said. "But it also gave us control." She shook her head. "Feels more like a spotlight." "Oh," he smiled gently. "Then let's blind them." The next morning, a surprise headline dropped. But not from a tabloid. From Ethan himself. Statement from Ethan Callahan, CEO of Callahan Holdings. "Yes, Eliza Harper is my fiancée. Yes, her father made mistakes. But Eliza has built her life on truth and courage, more than most people I know in boardrooms and billion-dollar meetings. If you're questioning her place beside me, you're questioning mine too, and I'm not moving." Social media exploded. Some users called it reckless. Others, romantic. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just damage control. It was commitment. Later that day, Eliza walked through the pediatric wing of the hospital. Nurses waved. A mother whispered, "That's the woman from the speech." A teenage girl with an IV raised a thumb. Elisa smiled. But when she turned the corner, Meredith was waiting by the elevator. Visiting the sick? How on brand. Eliza didn't flinch. Waiting in hospital lobbies to throw shade? How sad. Meredith stepped forward. "You're not bulletproof. People will always wonder if you're a liar." "Oh, let them wonder," Eliza said. "They used to wonder if I'd survive the week." Meredith blinked. "That's not a comeback." "No," Eliza said softly. "It's the truth." The elevator dinged, and Eliza walked in. Head high. No apology. Back at Callahan Tower, Ethan was preparing for a live interview. The kind that could tank stock or turn tides. His assistant peeked in. "They're ready when you are." Ethan adjusted his mic. Then paused. "Send a car for Eliza." "Are you sure?" He nodded. "If we're going public, we're doing it together." The black SUV pulled up outside her apartment. The driver didn't even need to knock. Eliza was already waiting by the door, coat in hand. She didn't ask where they were going. She already knew. At Callahan Tower, cameras were being prepped. The media outlet was live streaming to over 12 million subscribers. This wasn't just another interview. It was a reckoning, a choice, between silence and story, between spin and truth. And Ethan had already made his. When Eliza walked into the green room, the makeup artist gasped. I know, Eliza smiled. No filter, no edit, just me. Ethan was standing in front of the mirror, straightening his cufflinks. He turned as she entered. You came, you asked. He looked at her like she was a miracle he never deserved. Whatever they ask, he said quietly, answer it your way. No scripts? No scripts. No rescue lines? He smiled. You don't need them. The host was known for being brutal. Polished smile, razor voice. The kind of woman who could smell nervous sweat in HD. She welcomed them with icy charm. Ethan, Eliza, let's give the world something they didn't expect. Cameras rolled. Lights hit. The first few questions were simple. How long have you been together? When did you realize it was real? Was there ever a moment you doubted each other? Ethan answered smoothly, Eliza with warmth. But then came the switch. The moment they all expected. Miss Harper, the host said, do you think you're only here because of who you're dating? Eliza didn't blink. I'm here because I survived things most people would crumble under. And yet, the host continued, your presence has cost this company millions in press fallout. Do you feel responsible? Eliza turned to the camera. To every girl who's ever been told to sit quietly and be grateful. To every kid who changed their name because shame screamed louder than their heartbeat. I'm not responsible for the fallout. I'm responsible for standing back up. Silence. Not a breath in the room. Even the host was momentarily stunned. And Ethan? He reached for Eliza's hand on live television without blinking. This company didn't lose value, he said. It found its spine. When the interview ended, Eliza stepped off, set into a tunnel of flashing lights and waiting staff. Ethan followed, jaw relaxed for the first time all week. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Better than okay. Then her phone buzzed. A single message. Unknown number. Meet me at the corner of Lexington and 44th. Come alone, it's about your father. Herr Pulse skipped. That night, against every logical instinct, she went. Ethan had offered to come. She refused. This was her past. And if it wanted to speak, she needed to hear it alone. She wore no makeup, no statement coat. Just jeans, a hoodie, and every scar she'd earned stitched into her spine. At the corner stood a man in his 52nd. Clean-cut, nervous eyes, holding a manila folder. You're Eliza, he said. And you are? I worked with your father. Her breath caught. He wasn't guilty, the man said, voice shaking. He took the fall to protect someone else. Who? The man looked around, then whispered one name. Kingsley. Eliza froze. You're saying Meredith's family? Controlled Lexicon's shadow funds. Your father found out too late. He was going to go public. Then, the heart attack. Or so, they said. Eliza clenched her fists. I have proof, he added, handing her the folder. But be careful. They don't like loose ends. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Back at her apartment, Eliza opened the folder. Inside, bank transfers, correspondence, whistleblower statements. Signed confession. Never field. Her heart slammed against her chest. Her father hadn't died a villain. He'd died protecting the truth. And now that truth sat in her hands. She called Ethan. No answer. She tried again. Voicemail. She texted, I need to see you now. Urgent. But it wasn't Ethan who replied. It was a different number. And one sentence. Too late. He's with Meredith. The message echoed louder than the city outside her window. Too late. He's with Meredith. Eliza stared at the screen. Fingers cold. Mind racing. She didn't want to believe it. Couldn't. Not after everything. Across town, at the penthouse of the Ashton Hotel, Ethan stood in front of a marble bar, whiskey untouched. Meredith leaned against the piano, wine glass in hand, smile sharp enough to cut. I didn't think you'd show, she said. You called my office 4 times, he replied. You didn't have to come. I wanted to say it to your face. She raised an eyebrow. I'm not for sale, he said simply. She chuckled. Darling, you've always been for sale. The difference is, Eliza couldn't afford the price. Ethan didn't flinch. She didn't buy me. She made me stop selling myself. Meredith circled closer. Do you even know who she is? Yes. And do you know who her father really was? I know enough to know he wasn't the villain. Meredith's smile flickered. Just for a second. Then, be careful, Ethan. You think you're saving a woman, but maybe you're digging your own grave. He set his glass down. I'd rather fall with someone honest than stand with someone empty. He turned to leave, but Meredith's voice stopped him cold. You might want to ask yourself how she found that confession file. He turned. What? Because last I checked, she said sweetly, those documents were locked in a federal archive no one could access. Pause. Unless she had help. From someone with dirtier hands than her father's. Back at Eliza's apartment, the folder was still open on the kitchen counter. Her eyes scanned every page again. Again. Trying to prove to herself that none of this was planted. None of it fake. But the seed was already there. What if Meredith was setting her up? What if this was a trap? What if Ethan thought? Her phone rang. Ethan, she answered. Where are you? He asked. Home. I'm coming. No, wait. But he'd already hung up. 10 minutes later, the knock came. She opened the door slowly. He stood there, tired, disheveled, but eyes clear. Eliza, he said, we need to talk. She let him in. He walked straight to the folder. Glanced at it. You found it. I didn't go looking, she said. I believe you. Silence. Then he looked her dead in the eye. Tell me everything. They sat on the couch. The city glowed through the curtains behind them. She told him everything. The man on the corner. The documents. The whispered name. Kingsley. He didn't interrupt. Didn't question. He just listened. When she finished, her voice cracked. I don't know what's real anymore, Ethan. He reached over. Took her hand. This, he said softly. This is real. She blinked, tears brimming. You believe me? I've been lied to by professionals my whole life. You? You're terrible at hiding emotion. That's how I know you're telling the truth. She let out a laugh. Half relief, half heartbreak. But Meredith's not done, he said. She's not going to stop until one of us breaks. Eliza looked up. Then let's not break. The next day, Ethan called a press conference. But not at Callahan Tower. At the courthouse steps. Beside him, Eliza, in a navy coat. Hair pulled back, chin raised. He faced the cameras. This isn't about image anymore, he began. It's about truth. About what people in power do behind closed doors. And who pays for it. He handed the folder to the district attorney. This is the story that never got told, because the man trying to tell it died before he could. Reporters shouted. Cameras clicked. The internet exploded. But Eliza, she stood still. Solid. Free. Across town, Meredith hurled her phone across the room. Shards of screen rained down like glass rain. She wants war? She hissed. She'll get fire. That night, Eliza tucked Eli into bed. He was smiling, breathing better, stronger. Are you and Mr. Ethan getting married? He asked sleepily. She paused, then smiled. I don't know, but he loves you. She kissed his forehead. Maybe that's the part that matters most. At Ethan's penthouse, he stood on the balcony, staring into the city he once thought he controlled. Now, it felt different. Less like a kingdom. More like a home he might finally deserve. He picked up his phone, typed one line. Dinner tomorrow? No cameras. Just you. Just us. Sent. But neither of them saw the envelope sliding under Eliza's door that night. No name, no return address. Inside, a single photo. Black and white. Faded at the edges. But clear enough. A young Eliza. A handshake. A man in a suit. And a timestamp that didn't match her story. Below it, in marker. Innocence only lasts as long as no one remembers. The envelope sat on her kitchen table like a ticking bomb. Eliza stared at the photo. Faded, grainy, but undeniably her. A younger version, maybe 16, standing in front of a tall man in a press suit. The handshake looked official. The timestamp read the 12th of March, 2015. But that couldn't be right. Because on that day, Eliza remembered one thing only. She was sitting outside a hospital room. Her father's EKG had just flatlined, and she hadn't spoken a word for 3 days straight. So, who took this photo? And why did it exist? The knock at her door made her jump. She tucked the envelope under a stack of books, heart racing. When she opened the door, it was Ethan, holding 2 coffee cups and a box of takeout. "Breakfast for dinner," he said. "My idea of romance." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He noticed. "What's wrong?" Elisa hesitated, but something told her, "Not yet. Just tired," she lied. He handed her a cup. "Well then," he said, "I'll do the talking. You do the pancakes." They sat on the couch. He told her about his first attempt at cooking burned rice at age 10. She laughed. He smiled like it was the first time in weeks. But that photo kept pulsing in her mind like a second heartbeat. She excused herself to the bathroom, closed the door, pulled out her phone and zoomed into the photo again. And this time, she noticed something chilling. The man's face, clean-shaven, sharp suit, expensive watch, and a name tag clipped to his jacket. D. Kingsley, Strategic Compliance. Her blood turned to ice. Meredith's father. The next morning, Eliza went to the city archives. Alone. No Ethan, no press. Just her and a long hallway of forgotten truths. She requested visitor logs from Lexicon Global's final month. And there it was. The 12th of March, 2015. Visitor, Daniel Kingsley. Meeting with Jonathan Harper. Time logged, 10:12 a.m. Exit, 10:54 a.m. Her father died at 11:06. 12 minutes later, back at Callahan Tower, Ethan was on a conference call when his assistant stepped in. "You might want to see this." It was a blog post, anonymous, titled, "The Girl Behind the Mask, What Eliza Harper Isn't Saying." Attached, the photo, a redacted contract, a blurred signature that looked dangerously familiar. Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't even wait to hang up the call. When he arrived at Eliza's apartment, she was already packing. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I need space." "Elisa, I need truth, Ethan. And I don't know who's giving it to me anymore." He stepped forward. "I saw the post. But that photo isn't proof of anything." "I know, but the world doesn't care." "I care." She looked at him, broken but burning. "I've spent my entire life trying to outrun my father's ghost. And now I realize he didn't die a ghost. He was silenced." "Oh." Ethan didn't speak. He just took her hand. "What do you want to do?" Her voice was steady. "I want to finish what he started." That night, Eliza called the man who gave her the folder. He answered after 3 rings. "You weren't supposed to contact me again." "Well, here I am." "What do you want?" "The truth, all of it." "Ah, pause. Then meet me tomorrow," he said. "Old East Terminal, midnight. Come alone." Click. Line dead. Ethan wanted to go. She said no. "If I don't do this myself, I'll never know what parts of me were built on lies." So at 11:45 p.m., she slipped into the abandoned terminal. Dark, echoing, smelling of rust and regret. At exactly midnight, footsteps echoed from the far end. The man emerged, carrying a small lockbox. "No digital copies," he said. "Too risky. But these are originals." "Oh." Inside the box, a voice recording, a printed email from Daniel Kingsley, a document signed by Jonathan Harper marked "Not Filed," and a note. "If anything happens to me, it's because they made it happen." Eliza's throat tightened. "This can't stay buried," she whispered. The man looked at her sadly. "Then be ready to burn with it." But someone else had already followed her there. A camera clicked in the shadows. A lens zoomed in, and the image was uploaded in real time to a private drive owned by Meredith Kingsley. She sipped her wine, watched the footage, and smiled. "She thinks she's close to the truth," she whispered. "But the truth doesn't matter if no one survives to tell it." Back in her apartment, Eliza opened the voice recording. It was her father, tired, breathing heavy. "If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. They're going to blame me. They'll twist the numbers. The press will call it suicide. But you, Eliza, you know better. You are better. Don't let my silence become your inheritance. Tell them, all of it, even if it costs you." Tears fell, but not weakness. "Fuel," Eliza called Ethan. He answered instantly. "I'm ready," she said. "Then let's bring them down." The city sleeps, but the truth never rests. Morning light, pale and cautious, crept through Eliza's curtains. She still held the voice recording her father's voice, fragile and defiant. And now the photo and the timestamp. Her world had shattered, reassembled, and cracked again. But Corey Ethan needed to know. Downstairs, he waited. By the elevator doors, no suits, no cameras. Just a man, with nothing left to sell, only to stand. She descended, slow, their eyes locked. No words needed, only questions. In Ethan's office, the door closed behind them. She placed the photo on his desk. He stared. "I recorded the call," she said. "Forget the press. I called Meredith out in public yesterday now. I'll be held accountable." He picked up the photo. "Him?" Eliza nodded. Ethan laid it down gently. "Let's finish this." At Callahan Tower, security footage streamed. The man with the box, the handshake, the timestamp. Join the dots. They weighed Meredith's rise, her father's empire, her hatred for the Harper name. Eliza made a choice. She walked into the media room herself. No press gag, just raw truth. She pressed play. Audio of her father's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, they're going to frame me. Kingsley made the deal, and my word was the collateral. Eliza, tell them." Silence fell so hard it echoed. Reporters faltered. Camera lights flickered. And then, the CEO, her partner, stood up. "Ethan Callahan," he began, voice steady. "I don't protect scandals. I honor truth." He motioned to Eliza. She found the recording. She pushed it forward. Because she isn't afraid anymore. Flashbulbs popped. Questions erupted. But she stepped forward. No stage. No theatrics. "Daniel Kingsley orchestrated my father's fall, but I won't let my name be history. I will rebuild it on truth." There were nods. There were tears. There was hope. Backstage, amidst chaos of news crews, Ethan found Eliza. "Are you done?" he asked. She smiled. "Not done, but free." He took her hand. "Let's rebuild on truth together." Across town, in a dark suite, Meredith watched the live stream. Her face, pale, her empire, crumbling, and she pressed, "Call agent, redeploy." In the quiet that followed, Eliza returned home. Eli greeted her with a hug. "Did you save him?" he whispered, half asleep. She kissed his forehead. "I think he saved me instead." And on the balcony of his penthouse, Ethan waited the way he always did, steady, present. When Eliza stepped out, rain began to fall. Soft, cleansing. He took her hand. No words, just two hearts beating back to life. Together, the dawn was gray, heavy with truth's aftermath. Eliza sat at the kitchen table, the box of evidence open before her emails, recordings, confessions. Each page trembled with the weight of her father's legacy. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, waiting?" She typed back, "Yes." He arrived moments later, keys in hand and eyes weary, a storm behind them. He didn't ask, he saw. They were silent companions in the aftermath of revelations. In Ethan's home office, screens displayed leaks worldwide. Document headlines screaming, "Betrayal." Eliza's face blurred under scandal. The truth had erupted. Ethan closed his laptop. "This war just went global." She nodded. "But I started it. I'll finish it." They called a press assembly, not in the boardroom, on the same courthouse steps where she had once given her speech. Cameras from every network broadcast live. Eliza stepped forward, unguarded. "I am not ashamed. I am not a pawn. What you've seen, leaked files, edited videos, is a narrative built by fear. I am here to set it straight." She handed the records to a reporter. "All evidence will go to the district attorney. No more secrets." Ethan joined her on stage. He didn't hide behind her. Together, they faced it, truth in the open. Later, forgotten hallways of a courthouse corridor. They walked side by side, bruised but unbroken. Ethan stopped. He looked at her bare, unwavering, electrifying. "She's cornered, Eliza." The man's name echoed. "Meredith." Eliza exhaled. "I know, but she's trapped too." "How?" She leaned closer. "Because history's not just in documents, it's in how you live it." Meredith sat alone in her office, soaring, yet sinking. Her empire crumbled not with chaos, but quiet purpose. She'd underestimated truth, born in shadows. Now her final play? A private conference call. Damage control. Discredit. control the narrative. But the world had heard too much already. Next morning, Eliza visited her father's grave. Rain fell softly, first honest tears in years. She knelt. "I told them your story, not the disgrace, but the courage to stand against it." Eli tugged at her sleeve. He handed her a bouquet dandelions from outside. Simple, real. She looked at him. "I think we're going to be okay." That evening, at the top of Ethan's rooftop, lights pulsed below, the city exhaled hope. He turned to her. "We survived a lie. Now let's build truth." She rested her head on his shoulder. "No contracts, no conditions." He smiled. "Just us." They watched traffic move like constellations on Earth, and for the first time, they were free. However, somewhere far below, Meredith watched the broadcast. She whispered to empty air, "You may have won this battle, but I own the war they'll never see." The rain washed over the city. Truth had won the moment, but the shadows refused to disappear. Rain fell in slow motion, drumming against the window as Eliza and Ethan stood in her apartment, two silhouettes in the storm of their lives. The dossier lay between them. Emails, recordings, photo, evidence enough to shatter kingdoms. Ethan broke the silence. "What now?" Eliza's voice trembled, but her gaze was steady. "Now." She took a breath. "You expose her." Ethan nodded. The next morning, the internet erupted. On every major network, Callahan expose, Meredith Kingsley, implicated in cover-up. They didn't just leak the expose, Eliza read it herself, side by side with Ethan, on live broadcast. She stood, faces pixelated behind the headline, reading the documents herself into the camera. "This is my name, built on truth, not fear. And today, you will learn there are consequences for lies." At the Kingsley estate, the walls were silent. Meredith stared at the screen, fury and fear flickering in her eyes. She dialed a number. Damage control. Full blackout. ASAP. But the world had already seen the shadow. The truth was awake. Weeks later, Eliza and Ethan walked into a courtroom, faces bruised, hearts resolute. They delivered the dossier to the DA. Truth, in living text, they shared the stand. She testified. Words held both pain and power. He stood by her, bearing witness to her truth. Outside the courthouse steps, rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through. Reporters called her a hero. Supporters cheered. Social media flooded with number. Truth wins. Eliza looked at Ethan. He smiled. And for the first time in a lifetime, she believed him when he said, "I'm not going anywhere." At their loft that evening, lights on, soft music playing. Eli ran in, laughter high. "Mommy, Daddy?" They hugged him, and Ethan said softly, "Maybe it's time we think about wedding plans." Eliza laughed, real and warm. "No contracts?" Ethan shook his head. "No contracts, just us. Maybe a dress. Definitely candles." But across town, in a dark boardroom, Meredith closed her laptop, news alerts flashing. She stared at her phone. No path remained. One tear slipped, but her lips twisted into a knowing smile. "This isn't over," she whispered. And outside, the city remained alive, stories unfinished, waiting for the next chapter. The city lights stretched before them like trails of stardust, as Eliza and Ethan climbed to the rooftop garden. Water from the mist settled on petals and on their shoulders, restive with possibility. Eli's laughter drifted below, safe in the world they'd begun rebuilding. Ethan's voice cut through the quiet. "I think they'll let us be," he said. Eliza tilted her chin toward the flicker of downtown glow. "Maybe. But I'm not done yet." Her gaze held promise and the spark of revolution. Meanwhile, fewer miles north, Meredith Kingsley stared at a boardroom of tie-wearing executives. Her empire was bruised, but not broken. "Damage control was only round one," she said, voice low but fierce. "Round two is rebuilding what's left, and rewriting who gets to fall." Back in the loft, Eliza had taken to pen and paper, an idea scraping itself into form. She tapped the final draft of her memoir, Behind the Name, A Daughter's Truth, a project born from the ashes of secrets, meant to outlast the headlines. Ethan leaned behind her, whispering, "This will change lives." She exhaled, eyes bright. "Not just mine, theirs." The digital storm surrounding them had softened but not vanished. News channels called it the Harper Redemption, a billionaire's reckoning, A truth revolution. Ethan and Eliza stood together for interviews. No frills, no props, just truth carried in quiet conviction. Late one evening, Eliza found a manila envelope slipped beneath her door. Inside, an invitation. Annual Leadership Gala. Kingsley Enterprises. Honorary guest. No return address. Her heart thudded. She showed it to Ethan. "You're not going alone," he said simply. A week later, they arrived at the gala. Velvet drapes, crystal chandeliers, the scent of roses and secrets in the air. Ethan's presence commanded respect. Eliza's quiet strength radiated a different power. Meredith observed from the dais, expression unreadable. When Eliza approached, the room still hushed. Meredith rose, graceful as a threat, and extended her hand. "Miss Harper," she said, "you have my respect." Eliza paused, then smiled gently. "Thank you, Miss Kingsley. But respect is earned." Gasps trickled through the crowd. Meredith's lips curved into a complex expression that might have been regret or recognition. The music swelled. Ethan offered his arm. Together, Eliza and Ethan walked into the light, not as business power couple, nor as drama magnet, just as two people who chose each other, story after story. Backstage, Meredith whispered, "This time, the ending's yours, but the story belongs to us all." Her eyes glowed, not victory, but acknowledgement. Below, on the streets, a mural glinted in neon rain. A banner painted across brick. "Truth will always bloom." Eliza paused, breathing it in. Ethan squeezed her hand. "We're planting seeds," he said. She smiled brighter than any neon sign. Stars faded behind rain clouds. On the rooftop garden, under dim string lights, Eliza and Ethan stood in silence. The air smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. Eliza spoke first. "He's gone." Ethan's eyes, protective, softened. "Who?" "The man from the recording. The one who gave me the proof." He recalled the mysterious helper who risked everything. "Any message?" Her phone vibrated in her hand. A single text. "Meet me at your father's grave. Sunrise." At dawn, the cemetery was silent. Eliza knelt by the old marble slab. She traced the engraving, "Jonathan Harper, beloved father, unforgotten truth." He emerged from the mist. The man, older, weary. "You left the recordings for me?" He nodded. He died knowing the truth was safe. Eliza bowed her head. "Now I'll finish it." Days later, Eliza's memoir went public. Not through traditional publishers, but through a viral live stream. Her voice quivered at first. "This is my father, a man betrayed. I am his daughter, and I will not betray his truth." Viewers watched her transform from a symbol into a voice. She ended with one sentence. "This is just chapter 1. Meanwhile, Meredith watched from her glass tower. Her empire still standing but fractured. "She's rewriting history," Meredith murmured. Then she turned away. Not defeated. Furious. Recalculating. At the Harper household, Eli sat on her lap, helping her scribble on a postcard. "Dear Daddy, we told everyone you were a hero." She kissed his cheek. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." Later, in the boardroom of Callahan Holdings, Ethan stood before his board. No masks. No scripts. Only the truth on display. "We're not just a company," he said. "We're a promise. To do better. To be better." They watched him not as CEO, but as a man transformed. Back on the rooftop, Eliza leaned into Ethan. "What now?" He smiled. "We write the next chapter. Together." She closed her eyes. Together. Above them, rain eased. The city exhaled relief, but somewhere far away, Meredith prepared for her next move. A smirk curled the edge of her lips. History isn't what you write. It's what they remember. And with that, the sky darkened, signaling that storms may pass, but resilience endures. The city was quiet by midnight, a rare stillness draped over rooftops and streetlights still glowing. In their penthouse, the weight of months lifted from Eliza and Ethan. They stood in the living room, sunlight replaced by soft lamplight. Together, they reviewed the last page of Eliza's memoir. True power isn't what you possess. It's what you protect. Ethan placed his hand over hers, their breath in rhythm. No scripts, no artifice, just truth. In the Kingsley Tower, behind closed doors, Meredith stared at a silent phone screen. The world had shifted beneath her feet, but she refused to fall. She straightened her shoulders, summoned her board, and declared, "We adapt, we rise, and we write the history they can't ignore." Back at the Harper home the next morning, Eli jumped into bed with a giant art kit. "Mama," he said, eyes bright, "should we draw our family story?" She smiled. With a crayon, together they sketched her, him, Ethan, a rising sun. He titled it, "Our Truth." She kissed his forehead, tears pooling not from sadness, but gratitude. At midday, press gathered in the courtyard of City Hall. Reporters whispered as Eliza and Ethan emerged, no entourage, no armor. A live video illuminated their faces across social feeds worldwide. Eliza, the same woman who once wore fake confidence, spoke with steady conviction. "I did not become strong despite my past. I became strong because of it. Now I stand here not as a symbol, but as proof that truth lives." The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in relief, because hope was always more contagious than fear. That evening, on the rooftop, they toasted with mismatched champagne glasses. The air smelled of rain just gone. Ethan leaned in. "Ready?" She nodded. "Always." And far away, Meredith watched that broadcast on multiple devices. Each frame edged into her mind. She sat back. A single thought surfaced. She won today, but I'll write the next chapter in a way no one expects. Her hands trembled, but only with anticipation. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the loft, Eliza began a new page. A letter. "To my father, wherever you are, you can rest now. We did it. We told the story no one dared to speak." Tears trailed down her cheeks, not sorrowful, but binding her to memory and to freedom. Ethan found her there, her face glowing in the lamplight and monitor glare. He pulled her close. "We're more than a story," he whispered. She looked at him, steady and finished. "We're the beginning of one." They kissed, the city lights painting scattered constellations over their shoulders. But as dawn peeked over the skyline, high atop another tower, Meredith prepared for a speech. Not to face them, not to challenge them, but to tell her side of the story, because history isn't only in what's told. But who dares to keep talking after the storm? The end, or a new beginning?